Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and I am finally sitting down to do my January monthly. I almost didn't do this, and I'm so glad I did because I think this is my favorite monthly I've ever done. I pulled in so much silver foil, so much Simply Gilded washi. It is just so shiny, so sparkly, so extra, and I am like hardcore obsessed with how this turned out. So I'm just going to jump into it while I'm putting down my washi banners. I'm going to start talking about the books that I read in December. So the first two were both sort of like camping related books that I had used for a display this summer that had been on my to-read list for a while. So the first one was Starry Eyes by, I think it was Jen Bennett. And if you guys want to get titles for like the books and stuff that I'm reading, follow me on Goodreads. I have that link down in the description. If you want to see, you can go to like my books that I've read and sort by chronological order. You can see what books I read in December. You can see every book I read in 2018 and what books I'm reading now and all the books I've read so far in 2019. Someone asked me to list all of the titles in the description, but I have a link to my Goodreads. So just go there and you can see all of the books that I read. So like I was saying, Starry Eyes, it's like I would describe it as like a romance with some meat to it. And then, so it deals with some like heavier issues. It's not like a Harlequin kind of romance. And then there's also like the action adventure of like surviving out in like the back trails of, I think it's like the back trails of Yosemite. And they get like, this guy and girl get ditched by their friend group and they have to like survive in the wilderness together and like make their way back to civilization. And it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And then the next book was like definitely heavier. It was Everything Beautiful Is Not Ruined. And that deals more with like parent relationships and mental illness. And it has like a lot of flashbacks. Like this girl is sent to like a survivalist kind of camp that's like really intense out in like northern Canada, and it's like awful. And then it flashes back from like that to like all of these events like leading up to her like getting sent to this camp for like troubled teens in like northern Canada. So it was really good. I really enjoyed that one. And then the next book I read was just something a little like fun, fluffy. It was Little White Lies, which is like a kind of like a society mystery that takes place in like Alabama in like Deb's society. And like this girl is trying to figure out who her father is, and her grandma like offers to pay for college if she'll come do like the Deb season, and do like cotillion and that kind of stuff. So it's just like fun. And if you're like a fan of Meg Cabot, Maureen Johnson, that sort of thing, I would recommend it. Like not the greatest book ever written, but it was a fun read. Sometimes you just want something like that isn't going to be like abused children everywhere and like people getting shot and terrible things happening to people. Sometimes you just want like society intrigue and pretty dresses. So the next book I read was a graphic novel, Sheets, and the story was just sort of meh. It's like about a ghost and a girl who's running a laundromat, and like the story was just sort of average, but the coloring was really pretty. So if you see it on a shelf, just like flip through and look at the colors. It was really pretty. And then the next book I read was, I finally read Dear Martin by Nick Stone. If you guys remember, I read Odd One Out a couple months ago and really didn't like it, but I did really enjoy Dear Martin. It was a really fast read. It's only about 200 pages, and it dealt with like police brutality and like racial tensions, but it did it so well. It's just, there's a reason like the hype is there. It's really, really good. I would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already, especially if you liked like Long Way Down or The Hate You Give. And then the next book I read was a historical fiction with like LGBTQ and like diverse characters, which was A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, is so good. Like, oh my gosh, this book was so good. Like, if you liked Carry On, like, you have to read this book. It's like, this guy's a total D-bag. Like, he's horrible. He's like a horrible, terrible person. But like, oh my gosh, like the main like relationship in this book, like the coupling, like the pairing is just so good. Like, oh my gosh, is so good. And there's like, they go on this adventure and like they get kidnapped, or like there's highway robbery and pirates and like scandal and like just it's so good. You have to read it. And then the next book was also really good in its own right, but I would recommend listening to this one, and it was Sadie, which is like a thriller. It's like a thriller that's got a really weird format, which is why I recommend listening to it. Half the book is a podcast, and it's really dark at times. It deals with like child abuse and like sexual assault and some really heavy stuff, which I wish someone had warned me before I read it, because there was like one part where I had to like stop the book because I was so grossed out by what was going on. I definitely think, even though it's marketed as teen, that this appeals more, I think would appeal more to like young, like actual like young adults, like people in their 20s. The main half the book is narrated by an adult man, who's like the guy who does the podcast, and it's like it's formatted like those true crime podcasts, but it's all fiction, but it alternates between the podcast and then Sadie's point of view, like from earlier, like before the podcast started. And then the next books I needed like a palate cleanser after Sadie was Royals by Rachel Hawkins, which is like a fun, fluffy, like girl ends up in Scotland and like falls in love with an aristocrat kind of thing. So if you like, you know, Princess Diaries or like Prince in Disguise by, I can't remember her first name, like maybe it's like Stephanie Kate Strom or something, like Prince in Disguise. If you liked that, check out Royals. It's like not the greatest book ever. Like I would say it was pretty average, but it was fun. It was fluffy. It was, you know, it was what it was, but I enjoyed it. It was good with a glass of wine and some popcorn on a Friday night. And then the next books I read were the Winter's Curse trilogy. I read all 3 of them in December, and these were, The Winter's Curse was my book that had been on my Goodreads to read list the longest. So I was like, either I have to read it now or it's coming off the list. So I read the first one and I was like, actually, I really like this, so I'm going to read the other ones. And it's like a dystopian like romance trilogy with like a heavy military emphasis, if that makes sense. Like the author did like a ton of research about like Renaissance era military strategy and like weaponry, and she did a lot of research, and I feel like it shows in the book. So there's like a lot of action, adventure, like military strategy, like revolutions and like spies, and just I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think like what, if you like dystopian trilogy kind of things, then you would probably like Winter's Curse. There's no love triangle, which was great. And then the last book I read, I finally started the Lunar Chronicles, and the first book in the series was Cinder, which I finished, but I don't really want to talk about the Lunar Chronicles because I read like 4 of the other books in January. So I will wait to January to, I guess, discuss my thoughts on the whole series, but I obviously enjoyed Cinder enough to keep reading the series. Jumping into what's going on my spread here, from the Once More with Love freebie, I had used this sticker to mark my word of 2019, which I don't think I talked about on Instagram, but I picked grace, and that's just about giving myself grace, especially with like all of the health stuff that's been going on, just giving myself grace to like not beat myself up for the things I can't do right now. and just to accept myself where I am and be kind to myself. So that sort of just like encompasses that. I did use that washi on the top there to mark off my week of vacation I took. And then right there, I'm marking my 4-year wedding anniversary with Joe. That sticker, the number is from Scribble Prince Co. and the cats are from Fox and Cactus. And then the balloons above there to mark my father-in-law's birthday, because I got married on my father-in-law's birthday. I did not know it was his birthday when we booked the date, because my husband is terrible at remembering when people's birthdays are, and he forgot it was his dad's birthday. And so I always remember my father-in-law's birthday, and then my brother's birthday, his 23rd birthday, I think, was on the 21st, and then his birthday is always like right around Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So he always gets 3-day weekends around his birthday. Lucky duck. And then I marked that Joe was sick, but I accidentally put this on Thursday instead of Wednesday. He started feeling not good on Tuesday night, and then he woke up really sick on Wednesday. He was sick for a whole week off, and the whole next week he was sick for 2.5 weeks. It was insane. And then on that Saturday, I was so excited to get to use these Galaxy Girls from Fox and Cactus, but my cousin and I had a girls' day. We went out for brunch, we got Starbucks, we got our nails done. It was a lot of fun because she was going back to school the next day, so we wanted to hang out before she went back to school. And I think I forgot to say the payday stickers are from Scribble Prince Co., and both of the holiday script stickers I used were from Rose Colored Days. I also used a day off sticker at the front of the washi at the top for my vacation. I used the day off sticker, and because I guess I just had all those days off in a row, and used that just to signify I had all those days off. So I'm just filling out all of my bills from January. I love all the silver foil that I pulled into this spread. It's so shiny. So what else? Oh, I have a bunch of things I'm going to mark still. You'd think this is the 5th time I've tried to do this voiceover, because I keep getting halfway through and then just eating my words, and I get frustrated and rage quit. So I'm using an emoji from Coffee Monsters Co. to mark the start of the snowpocalypse of 2019. Oh my gosh, we had 1.5 feet of snow. It was insane. We might have had more than 1.5 feet. There was just so much freaking snow. And then Sunday, it got worse. We already had 1 foot plus of snow on the ground. So I grabbed this Wonton in a Million foiled steamy and then the Mandy Dreams foiled arrow, which I love, to mark the second day of the snowpocalypse, and also to note that my car got stuck, which was something, because Joe was on call this day, and so he wasn't home, and I had to go ask my neighbor, the only neighbor I know, if he could help me get my car unstuck, and it was super uncomfortable, and I felt really terrible, so I baked them cookies to thank them, but I was just dying of embarrassment that my car got stuck, because I wanted to go get my nails done, and the driveway was cleared, and then I got stuck on a chunk of ice on the road. My undercarriage got stuck on it, and then it took 40 minutes to get my car unstuck. It was so bad. So I also am marking, I have an eye doctor appointment this week. The medicine I'm on, Plaquenil, requires you to get an eye check every year, but I haven't had an eye check in a decade. So I was I should probably just get a baseline, this is what my eyes are normally, because Plaquenil can cause some damage to your eyes. So you have to get it checked every year if you're on Plaquenil. That's it's a really rare side effect, but that's the only real side effect there is. It's an actual, the drug I'm on is actually an anti-malarial drug. So I'm not going to get malaria, which is a good plus, I guess, if I go somewhere where there's malaria. I don't think there's malaria in Ohio. There's not. We have West Nile, but whatever. So then I'm using this emoji and Simply Gilded washi to mark that my furnace broke. So we had Martin Luther King Day off on Monday, and then I had to take an emergency day on Tuesday because my furnace wasn't working and it was like 60 degrees in my house and it was so cold and I had the oven on and I had to wait for the furnace guy to come out because it was an emergency call. They're like, we can't tell you when we're going to be there. So I had to like sit around all day and wait for the guy to come. And then Joe and I did do a date night on Friday. So I used a Clever Gal Crafts heart to mark that. I mostly just wanted to use some Clever Gal Crafts hearts. So I used those to mark our 2 date nights that we had in January so far. So it's so shiny. Everything is so shiny. And I'm just like adding more shiny bits to zhuzh it up. These corners are from Simply Watercolor Co. I wish like she did corners like for the other corners too, if that makes sense. Because like you have to like turn them, like you can use them on the other corners, but then it makes the bows like upside down, if what I'm saying makes sense. I don't know. But I love adding all the silver stuff. So then these snowflakes are from Magic Prince Co. They were from a Christmas countdown, but there were little deco bits on the side. The other ones were like stockings and Santa Claus, but I grabbed the snowflakes and just like scattered them around the spread and like on that sidebar section just to add all the sparkle. And then of course I'm going in with some Simply Watercolor Co. sparkly bits to like kind of make it look like snow on the top. I thought it looked like snow falling in the windows there, so I added in like lots of the little silvery bits. It's so pretty. I've been like foil obsessed lately, if you couldn't tell, but like I am just here for how shiny this spread is. And it's like super extra and super duper me, and like the wiggle at the end is so good. It's so good. I don't know, I didn't get foil for so long, and now I'm like obsessed with it, which I think is so funny. So here is my wiggle. Maybe I know I'm gonna wiggle. Oh yeah, there we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye.